It's Monday, December 29th. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. The investigation continues into what caused a deadly fire in Charlottetown. Why the fur is flying between homeowners and dog owners over a Halifax park.
There's freezing rain and rainfall warnings across the Maritimes, a snowfall warning for northern New Brunswick.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. Well, the foul weather that's been causing problems in central Canada has arrived in our region. Here's what many of us will be into overnight. Freezing rain in much of the Maritimes with snow in northern areas. A few hundred customers are without power right now. And as CTV's Avery McRae reports, it's having an impact on travel.
With just days left in 2025, Mother Nature isn't going out like a lamb.
We're certainly doing our best to keep things in good condition out there.
This latest winter storm has swallowed the Maritimes, leaving everything from heavy snow to downpour-like rains in its path. In St. John, it's the freezing rain that is of the most concern.
Our crews are out and about, putting salt and sand down hills and intersections. So we had some early storms that tested us a little bit. But in terms of our equipment readiness, we're in better shape than we were last year.
Central Canada has been dealing with it for the past day. In Ottawa,
it doesn't matter if it's a roadway or a sidewalk or a winter cycling network, they're all coated in ice at the same time.
In parts of Ontario and Quebec, that mix of rain, ice, and heavy snow made for a messy day both for drivers and pedestrians. The precipitation mix is making travel tumultuous. The lineups were lengthy at Halifax Stanfield International Airport with delayed and canceled flights. The St. John Airport has also seen flight changes, with spokesperson Lori Carl telling CTV News runway crews are doing what they can to prevent the freezing rain from further disruptions. All this precipitation means possible power problems. NB Power says they have crews ready to respond across the province to potential outages. With storm season only beginning, New Brunswick EMO says it's an important time for households to ensure they are prepared.
Make sure that every household's able to sustain itself for a minimum of 72 hours. And things like, as far as driving safety goes, make sure you have, extra blankets, maybe even flares, and some other items that you might need in your car if you ever get stuck.
Given the expected road conditions, officials are asking those who can to avoid travel altogether. For those who still have to get behind the wheel, Jeffrey Downey says the most important tool you can have when tackling the roads in these types of conditions is patience. Avery McRae, CTV News, St. John.
There's a look at the situation right now in Fredericton at Regent and Prospect Streets, the intersection there. It is looking rather slippery, lots of reflection. Currently -1. Let's get our first look at the forecast. Bring in Jesse Thomas in for Kaylin Mitchell. And Jesse, lots of warnings across the board.
Yeah, lots of warnings across the board, Todd. You're right. In those freezing conditions like we saw there in Fredericton, making for some slippery conditions on roadways. But it's going to eventually warm up, and we're seeing some temperatures reflecting that right now. But let's see where our current temperatures fall. We're seeing some rainfall warnings in parts of southwestern Nova Scotia and parts of the coastal line around the Fundy area, where temperatures there are around 3 and 4 degrees. But as we move eastward, we see the temperatures where that freezing rain is impacting parts starting to come up a little bit. But we're still seeing temperatures around the 0, freezing in Halifax, -2 in Amherst, -3 in Moncton, -4 up in northern New Brunswick, where we're seeing possibilities for a lot of snow. -2 on PEI and Cape Breton. We're seeing -4 up in Cheticamp and 0 at the bridge, and -2 in Sydney. Let's look at these weather warnings that are in place. If we look at the area in blue, that's a freezing rain warning, and that's going to be continuing then ending this evening overnight, anywhere from the next 4 to 8 hours. That freezing rain should change to rain in certain parts as the temperatures get above freezing. In white now, we're looking at that area where we can see 20 centimeters worth of snow in northern New Brunswick, and some blowing snow as well. And as that changes, we could see some freezing rain. General just conditions not ideal for being out on the roadway. And finally, we will look at the rainfall warning that's in place for southwestern Nova Scotia and parts of the Fundy coastline as well. We could see anywhere from 25 to 40 millimeters of rain there. So conditions are going to be treacherous. As Avery McRae said, if you're traveling, exercise patience. We'll have more updates later on in the show. For now, back to you, Todd.
Yeah, certainly a good time to be off the roads for a little while anyway. Thank you, Jesse. We'll see you a little later because we know things are changing. We'll get the full forecast from you. In other news, an investigation continues tonight as officials determine the cause of a Charlottetown apartment building fire. 2 people were killed yesterday, 3 more are in hospital, and others are left without a place to live. CTV's Derek Haggett is in the island capital with the latest tonight.
Foul play has been ruled out in a fire that took the lives of 2 adults and hospitalized 3 others. Dozens of firefighters responded to the 20-unit building on Green Street in Charlottetown around 7 a.m. Sunday. Some residents were rescued through a window, while a few others were taken out the front door.
In the search through the building, we discovered 2 deceased residents of the building. So I just want to say at this time that the fire department extends their sincere condolences to the families and friends of the victims, and we certainly feel it ourselves.
There's no update on the condition of the 3 people sent to hospital. The Canadian Red Cross has put the residents up at a nearby hotel for the short term. The mayor says it's Charlottetown's deadliest fire since 2013.
My first thoughts go out to the families of the deceased, the 2 fatalities, their families, friends. And to happen during the festive season, the holiday season, it really has an impact on the community.
One neighbor saw smoke coming from the building and went over to see if he could help in any way.
These are people that we know, and you know, I put in my wood, and one of the people that died, he would come and, you know, talk to me while I was doing my wood, and always had a story to tell. And
several displaced pets have been brought to the Humane Society for the time being. The deputy chief says the investigation is ongoing, but could wrap up in a few days. I spoke with a number of neighbors today who didn't want to appear on camera. One woman called it a terrible tragedy, while another says she wishes there were fewer cars driving up and down her street right now. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Charlottetown.
And that was one of several deadly fires in our region over the holidays, with fatalities also in Fredericton and Bathurst. They've prompted warnings from fire officials. For more on that, here's CTV's Josh Smith.
In Bathurst, firefighters arrived late on Boxing Day to find a home fully engulfed. After the fire was extinguished, a man's body along with 2 dogs was discovered inside. Days earlier in Fredericton, crews responding to a residential fire were able to remove a trapped occupant. They later died in hospital.
Years ago, you had, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes to get out of a house fire. And now it's down to, 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes.
Scott Poupart, president of the New Brunswick Association of Fire Chiefs, says there's a few reasons why fire spreads so quickly nowadays.
Building materials burn a lot quicker. They give off a lot more toxic gases, and it's usually not the fire itself that causes the fatalities, it's the gas.
Fire officials say many people underestimate the strain holiday decorations place on electrical systems, and more households using lithium-ion batteries.
The amount of appliances and toys and sporting goods, these third market batteries are certainly an issue.
In Memramcook, firefighters took those warnings directly to the community on Christmas Eve.
If you have a real tree, make sure it's always well watered. Make sure that if you do use real candles, make sure you put them out before you go to bed. One of a good cause of fires also with cooking a turkey.
Poupart says the impact of fatal fires doesn't end when crews leave the scene, especially during the holidays.
Their mental health is very hard on our members as well. So, we count on the public to do their part in fire prevention.
There's still no word on what caused the fatal holiday fires in Fredericton and Bathurst. Both are still under investigation. Josh Smith, CTV News, Shediac, New Brunswick.
A fatal car crash in the Halifax area Saturday has resulted in a charge of impaired driving. CTV's Emma Convey reports.
It's back to regular traffic along this stretch of Highway 107 in Dartmouth after a fatal collision took place over the weekend.
On December 27th at 8:05 p.m., officers responded to a report of a motor vehicle collision on Highway 107 near exit 13N. There, 52-year-old man was pronounced dead on scene.
The driver of the other vehicle, 31-year-old Shaquille David Skinner, was taken to hospital with minor injuries, while his passenger, a 41-year-old woman, was also taken to hospital with serious injuries.
Shaquille David Skinner was arrested and charged with impaired driving causing death, as well as impaired driving causing bodily harm, and dangerous operation of a conveyance causing death, as well as dangerous operation of conveyance causing bodily harm.
Skinner has also been charged with 12 firearm-related offenses after police found a firearm in his possession. He was scheduled to appear in court today. At this time, police have not released the name of the deceased, and they are contacting the family.
There have been numerous incidents of impaired driving within Halifax Regional Municipality this year, and some more serious vehicle collisions causing death where alcohol and other driving-related criminality was a factor.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving stress finding a safe way home after a night out.
The $30 Uber ride or the $200 hotel room is nothing compared to the impact if you get caught driving impaired. And that's if you get caught. I mean, obviously, if you get into a crash, which no one thinks will happen, the results are going to be much more serious.
Halifax police are conducting checkpoints throughout the region, especially as New Year's Eve approaches. Emma Convey, CTV News, Dartmouth.
Get the Maritimes top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Many New Brunswickers in different communities are dealing with the inconvenience of having to boil their water. A boil water advisory was ordered for the municipal district of St. Stephen on Saturday after high turbidity levels were detected. That's the same issue behind a boil water advisory issued in the same area earlier this year. And they're still forced to boil their water in the village of Funday, Albert. It's now the 10th day. That's also because of high turbidity. Locals are being told to bring any water for drinking to a rolling boil for at least 1 minute. People who live near a popular Halifax area park are demanding the city do something about an off-leash dog area. They argue barking and animal waste is ruining their neighborhood. CTV's Hafsa Arif has the demands and the city's response.
This stretch of trail and shoreline is one of the most popular spots for dog owners in the city, a rare off-leash park that winds through the forest, along the water, and right up to the beach. But for a small group of residents whose backyards face the park, that popularity has come with a cost.
As you can imagine, 100 meters over a body of water with very little tree buffer allows a lot of noise to come through.
And it's not just barking, but dogs wandering near their properties and the inability to enjoy their own backyard, even in the morning.
Hearing these yips and these howls and owners yelling at their dogs, all hours of the day while the park is open. In the early morning, it wakes them up while they're in their beds, while their windows and doors are closed.
The off-leash beach has been in place since 2007, but a few of the nearby neighbors believe the problem worsened as dog ownership surged in recent years.
We'll up the patrols if there's a lot of complaints, and we could do a better job of education. Getting people to understand, we have to live together.
Mancini says while he understands the frustration, closing the park isn't the answer. Instead, the councillor points to better education and enforcement. But the residents' lawyer argues those steps haven't worked so far.
We've tried to work with HRM prior to initiating litigation. We've certainly tried to be reasonable. This is not the first step that the residents have taken. This is kind of the last straw, given that none of the solutions have worked so far.
Residents aren't asking for the park to disappear, but for it to move.
There would be no issue if this was moved, say, further in. I believe Shuby Park is around 40 acres of forest. So it really is just the proximity and the noise.
Mancini says the municipality is open to ideas, but any solution must balance neighbors' concerns with access for the broader community.
Well, I think there has to be an understanding if you're living next to a park. It's like living next to a playground. You're going to have activity that maybe other households wouldn't have.
A court date to schedule next steps is expected in the coming months. Both sides say they hope to reach a resolution before it gets that far. Hafsa Arif, CTV News, Dartmouth.
We'll take our first break of the newscast. Still ahead, Jesse Thomas will have the latest on the messy weather system that's now in the region. But first, looking ahead.
We can't keep doing things the way that we're doing them.
Will electricity power the agenda in New Brunswick in 2026? Nick Moore takes a look next. Several issues will top the agenda in New Brunswick in the new year, perhaps none more than electricity, the price, production, and future of the provider. CTV's Nick Moore takes this look ahead.
Burdened with billions in debt and utility rates that are surging, NB Power is being primed for big changes in the new year. The Crown Corporation's future has been subject to a review since May. A final decision from the provincial government is expected by the end of March. In a year-end interview with CTV's Todd Battis, Premier Susan Holt says nothing is off the table.
If that includes the recommendation of a sale, then we will give that due and strong consideration, because we can't keep doing things the way that we're doing them.
The three-person panel, which was announced in May, says the question about whether or not to sell has been central to their conversations.
Should it be privatized? Some are saying perhaps, yes, because they're tired of seeing what they're seeing. But we're seeing the other side too. Keep it, it's ours. It's our uncle. We need it.
Holt acknowledged that attendance at some of the public consultation sessions had been underwhelming.
It wasn't maybe the amount of people we anticipated would show up to the in-person sessions. They've had online sessions, but they've also been out there engaging with stakeholder groups that represent lots of New Brunswickers that share different points of view.
The new year will also see the release of a new 10-year education plan, which could include rearranging the school day schedule and incorporating more AI in the classroom. As well, a review of the province's Official Languages Act is moving from every 10 years to every 5 and will be completed by the end of 2026. Nick Moore, CTV News, Fredericton.
We'll have that conversation with Premier Susan Holt, who you saw there in Nick's piece, tomorrow evening. Just after 6:30, we begin our new year with their year-ending interviews with the Maritime Premiers. Nova Scotia's Tim Houston answers our questions, and it'll all be available at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. All right, still to come. From snow to freezing rain, how long will this messy weather last? Jesse Thomas has the forecast for us after this. It's currently -3 at Washmill Lake Drive. Where is that, you may be asking? Well, that is behind Bayers Lake area in Halifax. A bit of a bird's eye view there, and it's...
I was seeing it now, right? Yeah.
One of the spots. Jesse Thomas joining us at the desk. One of the spots that is going to be hit with that freezing rain, or is being
is right now, earlier this afternoon, walking into the newsroom, it was rain turning to freezing rain, so conditions are getting a little more treacherous out there, prompting several weather warnings. We know there's snow, freezing rain, and rain warnings in place, Todd, so maybe we should get right into it. I don't know. Let's have a look.
Lots to talk about.
Yeah, we do. It's nice to fill in for Kaylin, but when we get a lot of weather, it allows us a chance to, here I am. We've got this freezing rain warning in place in blue, which you see really impacting much of the Maritimes. We told you before, we'll see this freezing rain hanging around until later this evening, ending overnight, but until then, it's making conditions quite treacherous on some roadways and sidewalks as well. So give yourself lots of time if you have to get out this evening and travel. Up in northern New Brunswick, this area of White overnight here, we see possibility for 20 centimeters of snow falling into Tuesday morning, that heavy snow. And there's some wind gusts creating some blowing snow situations. There's also a risk for freezing rain in behind it as well. And this area that you see in green, there's some milder temperatures compared to this area here along the Fundy coast and the coast line of Nova Scotia. This freezing rain, this rainfall warning extends all the way up to Guysborough County, I should say, all along the Atlantic coastline. 25 to 40 millimeters of rain possible. So anytime you get that much rain, you're looking at conditions of maybe pooling on roads and things like that. So be well aware of that. Let's look at the forecast timeline, though, to give us a better idea of where this storm system is going and what it looks like. And as we see now, here it is, the rain situation. Heavy rains coming in, followed by, as those temperatures dropped in this area, all this ice and freezing rain mix, followed by the snow that's moving in to northern New Brunswick. As we continue into the midnight and overnight, we see how that freezing rain is starting to turn into rain conditions as those temperatures warm up. Still some risk of freezing rain in parts of central and northern New Brunswick, and then followed by some flurries here. This is Tuesday morning where we see the precipitation continue with some flurries in behind this system. That's getting us to the 2 p.m. hour on Tuesday. We see quite a bit of snow flurry mix for a lot of the Maritimes as well. So we're seeing quite a bit of weather here. Here's our overnight temperatures tonight. We see those temperatures getting to 3 degrees in Halifax, 2 in Yarmouth, 0 in Moncton and in St. John, -3 in Fredericton, 0 over on PEI, -4 in Sydney, staying cool there. So watch for that freezing rain as well this evening into overnight in the morning, and then temperatures of -4 in Campbellton. Let's now look at Tuesday, where we'll see periods of snow to start the morning. In northern New Brunswick, we'll see temperatures anywhere from -5 up in Gambleton to 1 degrees in Bathurst and Miramichi. Those southwest winds are gusting to around 40 in the morning. They will be a factor throughout the Maritimes, those wind gusts. We'll see a few flurries for central New Brunswick tomorrow. We'll see temperatures anywhere from -3 in Fredericton to -5 in St. Stephen to 0 right around the freezing mark in Moncton. Those gusts getting up to 50 tomorrow. For PEI, we'll see a chance of flurries tomorrow. Those temperatures hanging right around the 4-degree mark. Wind gusts from the southwest up to 40 tomorrow. Chance of rain or snow as well for parts of eastern Nova Scotia and Cape Breton. Temperatures up around the 6 or 7 mark, though. We'll see wind gusts there, however, getting up to 70. And for central mainland Nova Scotia, we'll see rain and possible flurries in the morning. Those wind gusts getting up to 60. Temperatures anywhere from 0 to 3 degrees. And for southwest Nova Scotia, we will see rain, possibilities of flurries as well. Wind gusts up to 60 for tomorrow. So that precipitation hanging around and going to be a factor right into tomorrow. For now, we'll go back to you, Todd.
Okay, thank you for that, Jesse. Just doing, checking the maps, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, reporting combined about 1,700 customers without power, the vast majority in the Fredericton area. So those numbers starting to tick up. Next, our recent sit-down chat with Nova Scotia's Tim Houston as we begin our year-end conversations with the Maritime Premiers. Stay with us. Tonight, we begin our annual year-end conversations with the Maritime Premiers. I'll look back at 2025 and ahead to 2026. First up, Nova Scotia's Tim Houston talks cannabis, trade, and energy. Premier Houston, thank you for having us.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
As we sit here, cannabis has become a big issue. A focus. You've asked for a crackdown on dispensaries. Your Justice Minister called it a growing public safety problem. In what respects?
Well, obviously we're seeing what's happening there, and I think what we're saying is we should just treat cannabis like we treat booze, right? Weed and booze should be kind of treated the same. So we're concerned about the public safety aspect of it. Obviously there's a lot of these dispensaries popping up. It is really a growing thing. And the supply of that, I've talked to people in law enforcement who say they've tested some of the cannabis that's available through the illegal dispensaries, through the unregulated market. And they find traces of fentanyl, lots of pesticides. So we're concerned about that, but really concerned about where's it all coming from. There's an organized crime element there. Where's this money going, right? So we have to be mindful of the impacts on communities from organized crime. We have to be mindful of the impacts on health as well, right? In a time when we're making generational investments in healthcare, getting the doctor list down and really trying to make sure people have access to healthcare, we can't look away from these issues that could be contributing to negative outcomes.
What led you to have the Justice Minister present this the way he did, as opposed to speaking with First Nations, addressing the concerns, and then maybe...
Yeah, it's the public has been, we've been hearing from a lot of the public, and people are seeing the growth of it. Drive on the highway. You know, you see the flashing signs, meet your weed needs 24 hours a day, all this type of stuff, right? So people, it's very visible, and hearing from people in communities too. You think about the people who live in some of these communities, they don't want these shops next door to them. They got
Have they told you that?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I hear from quite a few people. Families, you know, my kids are saying, what are these, can we go into the store with the flashing lights and, you know, all this type of stuff, right? And just think about it. Would you want some of these shops right beside you? Like, it brings an element to these communities that has a concern, and people are afraid, quite frankly, because behind organized crime, that's when you see human trafficking, you know, that's when you see the money laundering. You can think of all the negative outcomes.
Have you seen this in Nova Scotia? Are there concrete examples of it?
Well, the connections to organized crime are a major concern for law enforcement, for sure. The stuff is coming from somewhere, and the money's going somewhere, right?
Some provinces are leery of acting or triggering court challenges around provincial and Indigenous law on this issue. You prepared to go to the courts on this?
As a matter of fact, the courts have already decided. There's lots of court law, case law in Nova Scotia. There was a court case recently in 2024 that said, we're all treaty people. We're all subject to the treaties. This is not a treaty right. It's not an Aboriginal right. It's not something that's legal in this province. The courts have been very clear on that in a number of cases.
Is there some fence mending to do with the First Nations?
My door's always open. You know, like the issues. This is a public safety issue. This is the law of the land. The law applies to everyone on this particular, you know, this issue. That's what's at stake. But you know, most of the chiefs have my personal cell phone number. Have relationships with them. You know, my door is always open. I will partner with anyone who wants to talk about how we can improve things in Nova Scotia.
Okay, I'd like to move on to trade, because that was such a big issue in the past year. Certainly, it looks like it will be in the next year. You were very bullish on getting rid of interprovincial trade barriers. You were perhaps at the forefront of all the premiers in the country on this. An agreement was signed. There were a lot of exclusions, including things like alcohol. Are you satisfied with that agreement? Did it go far enough in your mind?
Like for us here in Nova Scotia, we got rid of it. We got rid of it. So other jurisdictions are working at a different pace, other provinces and territories. So we're kind of pushing and pulling, I guess. You know, at one time, I think the Prime Minister referred to this as the Tim Houston project. But other premiers know, like everybody wants to grow their economy. Our relationship with the United States is really changing, for sure. They're always going to be a trading partner. They're always going to be, you know, relationships there in so many ways. So that's important. But we need to diversify away. So we're looking for other markets for lots of products. But sometimes that other market is a province next door in other parts of the country. So there's work to be done, for sure. But I do feel optimistic that, you know, at the premier level, at the federal government level, the Prime Minister, I know, is on board with this. Sometimes through this system, it takes a little longer. I get calls from people that say, hey, I thought we could, you know, the alcohol thing is fixed. I thought we could, you know, put our stuff on a shelf in Ontario, but I'm hearing that that's the problem. So then we got to make a few calls and, you know, fix it, right? So there's a bit of whack-a-mole happening there, as it were. But I'm optimistic that as a country we're moving in the right direction on that.
Okay. The vast majority of Nova Scotia exports to the U.S., about 90%. Is covered under CUSMA, NAFTA, whatever you want to call it, and is protected. Now, with the U.S. reviewing from their side, reviewing the agreement, there's already been some discussion from the White House that perhaps the President of the United States may want to have separate deals with Mexico and Canada and eliminate CUSMA. What's at risk for Nova Scotia if that isn't renegotiated, similar to as it is now?
Yeah, so the risks for us are the same for the whole country. This is a massive market, the United States. It's right beside us. We do a lot of trade with them. So anything that impedes our ability to access that market is a concern. So I'm concerned about what's happening there. But at the same time, we're also, you know, for a number of products, we're looking at, you know, other markets, seafood, you know, forestry, all these things. So we'll continue to look for other markets. But look, I'm putting my faith in the negotiating team that the federal government has there, and I know the Prime Minister is very involved in this as well. So the people at the table, they know more than I know, than you know, unless you're at the table. So certainly I can hear what I hear from the president and from some of them. I can see what the tweets are, but I don't really know what's at that table. So we're just trying to be supportive of that table. And the booze thing, the American booze thing, is a good example. At one point, I did reach out to the Prime Minister and say, I don't know what's happening at the table. We have all this alcohol. We'd like to sell it, but is it helpful to have that, at the table as a discussion point? And I say, well, if you can hold off a little longer, hold off a little longer.
That was really irked.
Yeah, that's it. It's a real irritant for them, right? So then, but then, a few months go by, and I say, what do you think? What do you think? Can we sell it? Yeah, I think you can. So there's things happening at that table. So I think as a country, we need to support the people at that table. That whole Team Canada approach, I'm still a believer in that. But certainly, yeah, the ability to trade freely with the United States is a big asset that I hope stays intact.
On American booze, other provinces seem to be following Nova Scotia's lead and selling the booze off and giving the profits to charity.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I won't deny that somebody suggested that to me. Somebody I know very closely said, "Hey, why don't you do this?" And I'm like, well, that's a great idea, right? So, but certainly when we did that, I did start to have calls from other premiers to say, that's a good idea. I think we're going to do that too. But there's nobody takes ownership over good ideas. We just try to do what's right.
Okay. Certainly diversification is a big part of dealing with what's going on with the trade of the United States. And one of the big things, of course, are these big projects. And Win West, you've talked a lot about certainly championing that. It's been selected by Ottawa as one of the fast-track projects. When might we see agreements signed? When might we see shovels in the ground on that?
Yeah, so that one I'm really excited about. Win West, the potential there. Nova Scotians are really kind of gravitating, catching on to that, I guess. But we could produce almost 25% or 27% of Canada's energy needs from offshore wind, because we have great wind speeds. It blows a lot. The water depths are good, so the bottom's kind of solid, so you can have the fixed turbines instead of the floating ones. So the factors are all in play for us. So it's a huge opportunity. But we can produce 40, 50, 60 gigawatts out there. We only need 2. So when you produce that much and you only need 2, you got to be able to export it. So the question mark is, how do we get it to those markets? And that'll be a cable, probably into Quebec and down. Yeah, so the next step on that is to do a market assessment, a feasibility study, and got my fingers crossed. We have a lot of discussions with the federal government on some funding for that study, so we can start to identify pricing and customers. But I'm really hopeful that that is really soon.
Look, we need to talk about Nova Scotia Power. It's something that you've been very vocal about. Clearly not pleased with how they've handled the cyber attack, the billing, and the pricing. But what can you do as a government? It's a regulated industry. Is it a matter that you might be able to offer rebates to customers?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. First off, we hold them to account to make sure that their bills are fair and accurate, and there's a lot of work happening on that. But really, in the long term, talking about energy prices, like we need to look at the fuel that they're using. Right? So right now they use a lot of natural gas to generate electricity for us, I think up to 20%, and all that natural gas comes through the United States. So would it be cheaper, do you think, if we could produce our own gas in Nova Scotia and use it right here? Or do we produce it in Alberta or BC, produce it there and move it all the way across, and then we buy it, so it costs a lot more. So this is why we're talking about the opportunities that we have in producing natural gas here, onshore, offshore, oil and gas, huge opportunities. But I think long term, meeting our own energy needs in a cost-efficient way is going to require us to move on some big projects.
What about the short term, though? These people who have these outrageous bills.
The onshore could be relatively short term, but we have to make sure that we can do it safely and sustainably, and there's a lot of work happening on that. But that would be a short-term thing that could bring the bills of people down pretty quick, and it would also offer an alternative to Nova Scotia Power if you could get on natural gas for a number of things.
Would you have liked to see the utility make a grand gesture to Nova Scotians to compensate them, or to, and when I say compensate, to recognize that it has been a difficult time for a lot of people in terms of their, the bills and the pricing that they've been dealing with, and we've been reporting on it every night almost.
This is a discussion that I actually have with them. I wish they would be more loyal to Nova Scotians in general. I think Nova Scotia Power, as Emera, has built a big enterprise, and it started here. They have all kinds of other operations, and I often have the discussion with them about, don't forget where you come from, where you came from, and treat Nova Scotians just a little more fairly, if you could. But absolutely on the billing thing, it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out when they have the actuals. You know, are they overbilling? It certainly seems like they are to a lot of people. Or are they actually underbilling? The actuals will show that. But certainly holding them to account on a level of fairness is a major, major priority for me, because it's a priority for Nova Scotians.
Last thing I'd like to address with you is the deficit. It's forecast to hit $1.2 billion. It was a surplus not long ago. Roughly half of that is spent on healthcare, and you've made big spends on a lot of areas in healthcare. But is that sustainable if we have an aging population and healthcare just continually devours whatever money is put into it?
The healthcare spend is significant for sure. We have to invest in healthcare to deliver healthcare for Nova Scotians. I've been passionate about that. We've made incredible progress, but in actual fact, most of the deficit is coming from measures that we've taken to help people with the affordability crisis. Tax breaks, those cost a lot of money, but it puts money back in the hands of people. It's an investment in people. They can maybe spend it again. The school lunch program, it's helping a lot of kids. Millions of meals served. That didn't exist before, but it costs a lot of money. You know, taking the bridge tolls off, free parking, all these things that we've done to try to make life a little more affordable for Nova Scotians, investing taxpayer money back in Nova Scotians. That's how we got a deficit. So in the long term, to answer your question, I'm not interested in cutting things, but I'm interested in growing our economy. That's why we want to have this really frank, fair discussion about our natural resources, where we have incredible potential. We just can't say no, because saying no has ramifications. It's not just you say no and that's the end of it. It has ramifications. We have potential. I am incredibly optimistic about the future of this province, incredibly optimistic, if we work together to realize on that potential.
And just quickly, if you would, 2026, what do you think the biggest challenge for your province is going to be?
I think that the challenge will be around working with Nova Scotians to develop our resources and get projects going, for sure, because we have to address the deficit, to make sure that people have opportunities here where they can stay and have a good career and have a great quality of life. That'll be important. But the relationship, the tariffs with the United States are going to loom large for a couple more years, but we're ready for that.
No doubt we'll be talking about that in the next 12 months. Premier, thank you very much for your time and happy holidays.
Merry Christmas to you and to your watchers as well. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you. From drought to the search for a pair of missing siblings and endless construction, we've tallied the top news stories of 2025 in the Maritimes from A to Z. Tonight, CTV's Stephanie Sikos guides us through the first part of the alphabet.
We begin with A for affordability. Between the price of groceries, housing, and energy across the Maritimes, the cost of living was a challenge for a growing number of people.
All of our meals have more people in them. We have more people coming to the door looking for emergency food supplies.
Recent data suggests 1 in 5 Canadians face moderate or severe food insecurity. B is for budgets. Both the New Brunswick and Nova Scotia governments are predicting record deficits for the 2025-26 fiscal year. New Brunswick is looking at its largest financial shortfall in 20 years, with a deficit of nearly $835 million.
This is not the fiscal situation we want it to be in.
In Nova Scotia, the government is forecasting the largest deficit in the province's history at close to $1.3 billion. C is for cyber attack. There was a massive security breach at Nova Scotia Power in the spring, resulting in sensitive customer information being stolen. Initially, the utility said roughly 277,000 customers were impacted, but a later report revealed all customers may have been affected. The stolen information included birth dates, social insurance numbers, and bank account information, some of which was published on the dark web. D is for drought. An incredibly dry summer across the Maritimes made way for a dry fall as well. The entirety of the region dealt with some level of drought.
We're dry 2 weeks now. I know of other residents that have been dry from June and onward.
The dry conditions resulted in water restrictions that lasted for months as wells dried up for many people. E is for elimination status. Canada has lost its measles-free designation after nearly 30 years. The Pan American Health Organization stripped Canada of the status because of a failure to curb a year-long outbreak. Officials are hopeful if numbers trend down, Canada can regain its status. More than 5,000 measles cases were reported across the country this year, with dozens across the Maritimes. F is for federal election. Prime Minister Mark Carney led the Liberals to a minority government after Justin Trudeau stepped down, the fourth consecutive mandate for the party.
Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me?
While Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre did not win his seat on election night, he won a by-election in August to return to the House of Commons. Jagmeet Singh stepped down as NDP leader after losing his seat and official party status. There has been some floor crossing recently in the House, including Nova Scotia MP Chris D'Entremont, who joined the Liberals from the Conservatives. G is for graffiti. Anti-Semitic messaging was spray-painted on all 3 synagogues in Halifax in September, which included hateful and violent language and symbols. 2 people have since been charged with public incitement of hatred, mischief, and property damage. Security cameras outside one of the synagogues helped police make the arrests. H is for Holt and Houston. Let's start with Holt. This marked the first year of a woman-led government in New Brunswick with Premier Susan Holt.
Much of our work this year was foundational, and now things really need to roll.
Meanwhile, Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston marked his first year of a supermajority. The Conservatives won 43 of 55 seats in last year's election.
When the next election comes, I will be here to see that fight through as leader of the PC party of Nova Scotia.
While he's only 1 year into his second term, Houston recently said he plans to seek a third. I is for Irving Oil. The company announced a major upgrade to its St. John refinery with a $100 million price tag. The money is for a critical processing unit which produces both gasoline and diesel. The project was expected to bring in about 675 skilled workers. The refinery is the largest in Canada. That concludes part 1 of our A to Z series, looking back on some of the most notable stories from 2025. We'll pick back up with Jay tomorrow night.
On the markets, the Dow Jones opened the last trading week of the year down 249 points. With more turmoil within Lululemon to end the year, the founder, Chip Wilson, is pushing for a shakeup of the board. BNN Bloomberg's Lindsay Biscaya has the details.
It's the latest push by Lululemon founder and the company's biggest shareholder, Chip Wilson. Wilson has nominated 3 director candidates to the company's board and says he believes shareholders won't trust any CEO that's picked by the current board. This comes after Calvin McDonald, the outgoing CEO, announced he would be stepping down in the new year. And here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar dropped to $73.04. West Texas Intermediate is up to $57.82. Western Canadian Select is unchanged at $44.94. And the TSX lost 103 points today, closing just under 32,000. Those are your business headlines. I'm Lindsay Biscaya.
All right, we kept Jesse inside for this final look. Jess,
Thanks,
go ahead.
Todd. Yeah, a real messy mix out there, right, Todd, tonight. Anywhere we're seeing some freezing rain or just puddles of rain to lots of snow up in northern New Brunswick. Let's see how things are going to shape up tomorrow morning as you get your Tuesday started. Anyways, in terms of temperatures, we'll see Antigonish 6 degrees, looking like maybe the mild spot or the hot spot. 4 degrees over Charlottetown, 2 degrees in Sydney to start the morning, where we'll see some of the remnants of that rain as it moves out of the system there Tuesday morning. But it's being followed by some flurries and a chance for more snow in the morning as well for parts of New Brunswick, where we'll see temperatures anywhere from 2 degrees in Moncton to 1 in St. John, Bathurst 1 degrees as well, near the freezing mark up in Gambleton, but -3, the cold spot in the Maritimes this morning at Edmundston. And we'll see in southwestern Nova Scotia temperatures above freezing there as well, 1 degrees, 2 in Bridgewater, and 2 degrees in the valley tomorrow as well. As we move on into the afternoon, we will see temperatures kind of changing around the cooler marks as well. We're seeing some cooler temperatures coming in, and we also will see a mix of sun and cloud emerging for middle parts of New Brunswick, PEI, and eastern Nova Scotia as well, with some cloud coverage as well in parts of northern New Brunswick with some snow there as well. So certainly a mix of precipitation tomorrow morning, continuing from that system that we're currently seeing going through right now, Todd, bringing a mess of quite a bit of everything. So if you don't have to be out in the roads tonight, we know that's the message. Stick around.
Some good advice.
Yeah.
And because this busy weather day wasn't enough for you, you're going to be back in this chair with a late update at 11:30 as well. Thank you.
You got it.
Yeah, we'll
Absolutely.
see you then. Okay, that will do us for us tonight. That's our look at the day here at home. CTVNewsAtlantic.ca has updates anytime. We also have the forecast there. I'm Todd Battis. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you right back here for your local news tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. Till then, have a good night.
CTV News, the Maritimes' #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.